What's up, everyone? Welcome to Beyond the Court, episode 9. We're so happy that you're here joining us today. My name is Agent P, also known as Pan, and we also have Daryl and Anwar, and we have a special guest in the building. Our first ever guest interview on Beyond the Court, a man that needs no introduction, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. Cabral Richards, also known as Cabbie, was born and raised in Toronto. He attended Galt Collegiate Institute. He also attended Ryerson University, a member of their radio and television arts program. Cabbie's early beginnings began at the Score television network, where he successfully pitched his own show in 2001 called Cabbie on the Street. Cabbie also hosted and produced NBA XL and J-Zone on Sportsnet. From 2005 to 2010, Cabbie hosted and produced Cabbie on the Street, Cabbie Unlimited, and NBA Court Surfing on the Score. In 2011, Cabbie also joined the Marilyn Dennis Show on CTV as a special correspondent on the daytime talk show. And then from 2011 to 2019, Cabbie worked for TSN, where he hosted and produced the awesome segments titled Cabbie Presents. His unique interview style has seen him interview the likes of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, Mike Tyson, Usain Bolt, just to name a few. Cabbie's interviews have also spanned into the world of entertainment with celebrities such as Will Smith, Hugh Jackman, Will Ferrell, Kevin Hart, Drake, Wiz Khalifa, A$AP Rocky, and Kendrick Lamar. Cabbie is currently the host of the Bleacher Report betting show, and he is also the host of the Bleacher Report Game Day game show. Welcome, Cabbie, to our podcast.
Thank you very much. A thorough dissection or a thorough recap of my biography. So thank you for
Say you forgot it. I want to make sure that we covered as much as possible. Thank you so much for joining us. I guess just to get kicked off, Cabbie, how are you doing during this time? In the midst of a pandemic and this time of quarantine, how have you been doing?
Well, thank you for having me on the Serge Ibaka episode of Beyond the Court. This is an honor for me. I've met guys. Never, ever, ever Google search Serge Ibaka jogging sweatpants or jogging pants. Jeez. Don't ever do it because it will change your life.
Really?
Okay. So how am I doing with the quarantine? So I put on 15 pounds. So the quarantine 15 is a real thing. And because I live in America, I live in Las Vegas, and food is so accessible in America, I just eat all of it. And as I've been burning through documentaries on Netflix or YouTube, Hulu, HBO, Showtime, and various television shows, I've just been eating like a high school kid, but not doing any of the work, like not paying the tax for the food that I've been eating, unfortunately. So it hasn't been a good look in that regard. But other than that, I'm in a bubble here in Vegas, and the city's been decimated. Like its economy is hospitality, and it's been decimated by COVID-19. And there has been pressure for the city to reopen, and I believe we're in phase 2. So some of the casinos have reopened, but most people wear masks. Not all, which is disappointing, but most people wear masks. And when I do get out for some fitness, I try to go for runs around the neighborhood, or like hikes, because there's a mountain range close by. Nice. So unlike Toronto, which is completely flat, in Las Vegas, I'm like 15 minutes or 30 minutes from Charleston, so I can climb a mountain.
A legit mountain. Yeah.
Not effectively, but I can at least try to climb a mountain. The way that the Raptors will try to climb a mountain for the second time, starting July 31st or August 1st, whichever date they confirm for the restart of the season.
No, definitely. I think you've mentioned with you now living in Las Vegas. How has your transition been, in terms of leaving Canada and TSN and now living in Las Vegas with the new Bleacher Report venture and opportunity?
Thanks for asking. Bleacher is, for years, I've been professionally jealous of the content that Bleacher creates, whether it's on the app. When I was covering the Raptors playoffs, we went to the conference finals in 2016, and then obviously won the NBA championship in 2019. But I would use the Bleacher Report app. It's a great aggregator and would have your team streams. So whoever the Raptors were playing their opponents. The Pacers 16 was the Pacers, it was the Miami Heat, and then we got beat by the Cavs. So I would just like click on those team streams, and I would just get so much information from their beat writers. Where it was a great aggregator. But then on social, whenever there was like 45 seconds after Russell Westbrook, has a disgusting putback and then he just screams, like they'd already had that highlight on Instagram. Or if it's Odell Beckham Jr. making a one-handed catch, by the time the game's over, they have like a Spider-Man web, emerging from his hand to catch the ball, and like some sick graphic.
Just on it.
And I was like, how fat, like, do these guys have like a entire, like a building or a campus of ninjas that are just so quick on the design tip and can react in real time to these incredible moments in either pop culture or in actual sports. So moving here to Las Vegas to host the betting show and the game day game show, the transition is different in this regard. Back at TSN and in my previous life at The Score, my sole purpose was to entertain and then inform, and that through my interviews with athletes, asking the most ridiculous and strange and bizarre, awkward questions imaginable. Here, our focus is on betting and betting culture and creating awareness for betting culture, and then leading into interacting with that community and engaging with that betting community, using memes, using music, using highlights as a form of dialogue. So it's different. So no longer am I interacting with athletes, except for Chad Johnson, who joins us once every 3 weeks, who's amazing. Ocho Cinco is a legend. And I love that dude. And that guy eats McDonald's 4 to 5 times a week. It doesn't make any sense that he's not 319 pounds. But he's got an 8-pack and he works out like a fiend, like he's still playing. And he works out in like pants, like
dress pants
jackets. Bro, he works out in like Dickies pants. Like, who does that? Like I've seen, bro, there was a time I went to a Good Life at Bay and Bloor. It was like, for some reason I was in that neighborhood and I was like, I just need to get a lift in because I was probably feeling guilty from eating, a burrito at Chipotle that was 18,000 calories, delicious. But I was like, I need to. But one time I saw a group of dudes in there. I'm not even lying to you. And what made me think of this, the connective tissue, is weird outfits at the gym where Ocho Cinco was wearing he's basically wearing khakis at the gym. I saw dudes in like bobsled onesies, a crew of 4 dudes. Bobsled onesies at the gym. I'm
like together as a team.
I know what's happening right now.
What is happening? And I also had another uncomfortable circumstance where I was like in a corner just trying to do some like hammer curls, and then there was a dude who was staring at me like in the reflection of the mirror, and I was like, so for like 0.7%, I knew what it felt like to be a woman at the gym, where dudes are just leering, and the women, they just want to go work out and get out. Like no one hangs out at the gym. You just got to get your work in, do your 60 minutes or 90 minutes, and peace out. But this dude kept staring, and then I had a dude interrupt me during, like I was doing lunges and like some kind of like a curl or something, and my guy like wanted to make small talk with me during the set. I'm like, I didn't want to be rude to the dude. Like, who talks at the gym? Nobody, other than can I mix, like can I jump in between sets on the leg press or the tricep extension or something. Anyway, I know this is a long answer to your question about transitioning from TSN to Bleacher Report. That's how my brain works. I don't have any concise thoughts.
It's the best way.
It runs and runs and runs like a leaky faucet.
Yeah, just let it roll.
So the one thing I do miss about TSN and miss about home is just following the Raptors and like going to Raptors games at I guess Scotiabank. It's once
can't get used to that yet.
I know. Once the building changed, like the Raptors told us, like, no, you guys have to say Scotiabank because we would just be used to saying ACC. You guys have to say Scotiabank. Because Scotiabank paid hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever, tens of millions for the naming rights of the building. Anyway, so I miss that. I miss going to A&W And there are a couple of A&Ws sprinkled around Toronto that are 24 hours, which I have legitimately visited in the double-digit times after between 3 and 4 a.m. I'm not, and I go in there hoping there's no one else in there, so I don't feel the shame of eating a couple of mama burgers, whatever. There's always like 2 for something. It's like 2 mama burgers for $6, or 2 mama burgers for $7. I always get the special. Wait, what's that?
I'm a double buddy burger guy.
Oh yeah.
Guilty. Yes. Guilty as charged.
Yes. So yeah, you feel me, right? But the I guess I don't want to characterize it as the cool thing, but there is less of an importance of hockey in the United States. Here, it's NFL football, college football, NBA basketball, college basketball, everything else. So basketball and football are my 2 favorite sports. So we lean very deeply into those 2 sports. So, you know, working for TSN, hockey was the number 1 priority sport. So at times it was nauseating when, you know, there's another Austin Matthews story, or it's like, I don't know, the Montreal Canadiens have a 5-game losing streak, but Carey Price is playing, you know, on his head, or like the Winnipeg, whatever the you know, the Canadian market teams or whatever. But so that's been a bit of a nice change.
Right.
That I can lean into the 2 basketballs and the two footballs versus hockey 85% of the time, and then everything else.
Right. That being said, I mean, I was in Vegas a couple of years ago. They're heavy on the Knights though, like.
Were you there that season they went to the Stanley Cup final? Like their first season?
The season after. So it was still pretty late, right? So like I remember like they treated it like football almost. Like the stadium there was like pockets of activities going on, and like in the parking lot there was stuff going on, right? I was like, man, you don't see this in Toronto. I guess that's just the culture there. That's how they tailgate like that, right? So I was shocked. They're all about the Knights, man. Like they love it. I don't know how it is now. I haven't really been following the Knights, but like I think it quieted down a bit.
Well, the Knights are still very popular, and it's the only professional team in town. I mean, the Vegas Raiders, you know, open up in September. Wait. Oh yeah, the stadium is gorgeous. It looks like a portal to a far part of the galaxy, like the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. It looks like every other stadium is either gray, or some of them might be brick, or like a like a beige. This one is black, like just glossy black. It's called Allegiant Stadium, but it's a beautiful building. It looks incredible. As for the Golden Knights fans, the people here, the locals, have really embraced the club. Right. And obviously in the inaugural season, they make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they lose to Ovechkin and the Capitals in 5 games. But it was almost like a Hollywood story.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally out of nowhere. And then all these players that were cast-offs from other teams, they really banded together, and then they used that as a chip on their shoulder, and they rallied around themselves. You know, much like us being in Toronto. I mean, you know, having a Toronto, like a baseball team and a basketball team, we are the perennial underdogs, and just being Canadians, we're underdogs as well, because America is such a cultural force, an economic force, a superpower in the world, and then we're just like the polite neighbor to the north.
We're just there.
We also have a little bit of a younger brother complex, which served us well last year, and obviously we had a top 12 to 15 talent in the history of the game.
Yeah.
By the time he finishes his career, he'll likely be top 12, top 15 in the history of the game. So we had him, but we had the rest of the guys who were big-time underdogs.
You touched on, Toronto Raptors, and, today is actually the 1-year anniversary of the epic Toronto Raptors championship parade, where over 2 million people flocked to downtown Toronto. And, how were you celebrating a year ago today? We do remember you on a parade float. And what were your thoughts on the Raptors championship run last season, and even their playoff chances this year as the season resumed?
Sorry to cut you off there. I'll start with the parade. It was magical. There was such a mosaic of faces in the audience. It was incredible. there was a time where I was saying to my producer, Dave, I was like, look at that little squad of 6-year-olds. There were like 46-year-olds lining this fence and all different shades. Like, it was awesome.
Amazing.
Like, the whole country rallied around the Toronto Raptors. And because Toronto, and I've been everywhere in our country except the territories, but the rest of Canada doesn't look like Toronto. Toronto is very much a multicultural melting pot. And we saw that. Like, I don't know if the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup, we might get a similar number of people attending the parade, the 2 million to 2.5 million, but I don't know if we're going to see quite the diversity, because I don't know, hockey isn't as inclusive culturally as basketball is, because basketball spans the entire globe and hockey is more regional to 16, 20 teams. And basketball is, you find it in the league broadcasts in 215 countries. Okay, so the parade. I was on bus number 4. There were 5 buses and then a parade of cars. So on my bus was Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Patrick McCaw. Patrick McCaw and OG Anunoby, for a little time, they were just on the first floor of the double-decker bus, and they weren't really enjoying themselves as much. And then they came up top with a little bit of prodding, and then they felt the warmth and the love from the fans, and it was overwhelming. And then they had to sort of retreat again down to the first floor, because it's like just having thousands of people chant your name has just got to be like a crazy feeling. Pascal having the time of his life. Like, Marc Gasol was living his absolute best life. Pascal was number 2. Pascal was also on the podium for living your best life. And he was up there with his 2 brothers. And it was like the whole parade was supposed to last 2.5 hours. Start at 10, be done in Nathan Phillips Square by 12:30. I don't even think we made a left onto University from Lakeshore until 12:30, or maybe even 1. And we made it to Nathan Phillips Square by 3:30. I think the whole thing was done by 4. So I felt bad for the broadcast teams that were at Nathan Phillips Square that were trying to narrate the parade, which was moving at a snail's pace, because there was the city did a terrible job planning. They didn't barricade, which if the Raptors win again, or if the Toronto Maple Leafs win, or if the Toronto Blue Jays on the road with this young core win the World Series, then they'll barricade off the streets and block it, because they just had lines of police officers walking beside the buses. So there was one line of officers with bicycles, another line of just officers walking, and there was some parts that had a small barricade, but it wasn't like not the Grand Prix, but it wasn't like the Molson Indy where there's like
full-on
tall
cement
fences. And then, the parade, it can move quickly. This was like, and at times, people were just over enthusiastically celebrating. So they were like waving into the bus. And listen, a credit to the officers that day in Toronto. Like, I would have probably lost my patience, because some people were just A, drunk as out of their mind, and B, just drunk off celebration. And then it was boiling hot, and you couldn't drink unless you were on the bus. You don't have access to anything to drink unless you brought some water with you, or food. So people were out there for like 6 hours just waving back and forth. Didn't bring any Cliff Bars. Did not pack like a Smart Water or whatever. So they were just had like a little flask of whatever, Jameson's or something. So mans were just faded in the streets. Okay, so then what can I tell you about on the bus? At one point, we snuck onto bus 3, where Fred VanVleet, Drake, Kyle Lowry, and Kawhi Leonard were. And then we got in trouble by the director of media for the Toronto Raptors. Her name is Jennifer Quinn. Jennifer's like, "What are you guys doing on the bus?" I'm like, "Oh, we just came to see if Kawhi maybe changed his mind about doing an interview." He's not doing an interview. I'm like, "Oh, well, it's been a few hours. Do you mind asking him?" She's like, "All right." Goes upstairs, comes back downstairs, cried his way away. So Akil Augustine got to do what is called a pool interview. So he interviewed, I don't know if he interviewed Drake, but Freddie, Kyle, and Kawhi for about like 90 seconds. And those interviews were shared around the globe. On his microphone, there was no what is called a mic flag, which has like drive like TSN or SportsCenter, ESPN. So we didn't have any of that, just a regular generic mic. And those interviews were shared. So we got in trouble for that. So then we got off bus 3. Mind you, I'm on bus 4, okay? So then we go up to bus 2. Bus 2 is Danny Green, Norman Powell.
Nice.
I can't remember who else was on bus 2. So then I interviewed Normie, and then Normie was just like, one eye was here, the other eye was like, hey, let me just go on a trip. Like Normie was feeling nice. And obviously, like, you know, he played well, and it was just like, it was time for celebration. So at the end of the interview, my producer Dave was saying something to me, and I was like, oh, did I miss asking a question? And that's when Normie popped open a bottle of champagne. He poured it over my head.
Oh, yeah,
and yo, that burns. Like when it gets in your eyes, for real, it burns. I understand why in baseball and all the sports, the guys wear goggles, ski goggles. And back when I started covering the Stanley Cup Finals in 2008, the first time I got to go into a celebratory dressing room, the Detroit Red Wings won the Stanley Cup in 2008 versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I went in there with like swimming goggles and a snorkel, and I got sprayed a bunch of times. Dominic Hasek opened a bottle of champagne, but it never went in my eyes until Norm Powell did it. And then I was like crying and being a little wimp about it. I was like, Normie, why'd you do this to me, Normie? I thought we were friends, Normie. You know, and
I remember that.
He didn't care. He was having a great time.
Awesome.
So yeah, that was. I can't remember the other questions, but that's my parade story. It took us forever to get to. Oh, one other thing. There was, and this was like the only smirch on the whole day was like there were some like shots fired in Nathan Square, and they were so far away from the stage where we were, and also on the stage was Prime Minister Trudeau. That stage was fortified, so I felt very comfortable at the side of the stage because there were, I don't know, 12 to 14 Army Rangers on both sides of the stage because the Prime Minister was there, and I'm sure countless other Secret Service, whatever our version of the Secret Service is, maybe it's CSIS or whatever. So I felt very secure. And also, we couldn't hear anything. It wasn't until Matt Devlin was like, hey guys, just want to remind everybody just to stay calm, just to be chill. It's a day of celebration. And we didn't know what was going on when we were standing backstage as the players were being introduced, and they said a few words. And the only person who wasn't allowed to talk was Marc Gasol, because Marc Gasol was so melted. He probably would have started speaking Spanish to the crowd, because that's where he's from, and nobody would have been understanding. Like, at least give me French. But it was an awesome day. Awesome day.
Definitely.
In terms of, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the Raptors' playoff chances this year. You know how the season's playing out, and the season's looking to resume shortly. How do you like their chances playing out?
I like that everybody will be healthy. We saw a picture of like slim Marc Gasol and slim Kyle Lowry.
Wow,
that's promising. However, like we've all been on Instagram. We've all seen some women on Instagram. They know their angles. You know what I mean? So, like I don't until I see them on the court, like up against other dudes, like in a defensive set or whatever, then you can get a better sense of how they look. But that's promising. Norm, obviously, he was coming back from an injury, and he was playing well. So defensively, the team is. I haven't looked at the numbers, but from what I recall, early, like towards the end of the suspension of the season, the Raptors were like in the top 10 defensively. Now, offensively, we were like okay, and obviously Pascal's usage rate has gone up. OG's has gone up. Kyle's has gone up. Freddie and Norm have been playing great. Serge, I think Kyle and Serge are like 1 and 5 in usage rate. So I guess Pascal is like number 2. Listen, the team's been a cohesive unit for a lot of times. The young guys have been playing awesome. And getting some nice minutes from Rondae Hollis, Jefferson, and Terrence. What's the young kid's name?
Davis, man.
Terrence Davis, the 22-year-old. Yeah.
Energy, man. Yeah.
Yes. So listen, I guess defensively, the team has a high IQ, and because I keep saying because the core players have been playing together for a few years, that's very promising. It's like now it's like so much more pressure is going to be on Pascal and Kyle to carry the offense. but with Freddie playing well and Normie playing like Normie, listen, man, if he has an awesome season, like he might opt out. He has a player option for the final year. He can opt out and become a free agent if he plays really well in the playoffs. And if we make a deep run, then Normie might be like, hey man, it's time for me to get some checks.
Yeah.
And then, that's like, I don't know what Jedi mind trick that Masai Ujiri is going to have to pull on Giannis Antetokounmpo and get that Greek god to play for Toronto. But I believe in Masai. And I haven't spoken to him about this at all. And obviously every Raptors fan is like hoping, wishing, and praying that the Greek god will come to Toronto and suit up, because that would just be incredible. But the playoffs. I guess hopefully we finish in the second seed. I think we were supposed to play Philly and then Boston. I think Boston is the one team that might challenge us for second in the East. That seeding won't be, we won't know until those 8 games are played. And then there's a potential playing round, the 8-9 matchups. But I'm cautiously optimistic, as I've always been as a Raptors fan. Not having LeBron in the conference is a nice bonus. It's just like, who is going to be the defensive stopper in the fourth quarter? Because Kawhi Leonard plays on the Clippers, and OG Anunoby has years to go before he's on Kawhi's level defensively. I mean, with his physical size and length, like, he has the body type for it, but Kawhi is just the absolute machine.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Elon Musk has just been sending him updates for his software package so that he can recharge his batteries just by either laying in the sun or being like hooked up into the mainframe. Because when it's go time, Kawhi just turns into the Terminator, and it's very difficult for other teams to guard that guy or to be guarded by him.
Absolutely, man. I feel like Norm for us is going to be the X factor in many ways, because every time he's come back from an injury this year, he's just taking it up that next level. Yeah, man. So like, I'm hoping that he's had that injury, he's had time to recover, he's hopefully had time to hit the gym. So like, I hope he continues that trend and like is the X factor that like the Raptors need. Was he starting when he got injured, or was he coming off the bench?
I think he was starting. Somebody else was injured.
I think it was a blend of like different lineups.
Yeah, because I think Gasol was injured for a while, and Kyle only played 52 of the Raptors were 46 and 18, so that's 64 games. So 46 and 18, for 64 games. So what's he start? I can't remember. I'm trying to think of that Utah game, like that March 9th, I think is when they played Utah before. The Jazz played. Was it the Rockets? And that was the end of the. Suspended.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I feel like he was. I feel like he was starting because there was somebody else that was out, and he was.
I think he was starting. He was going for a take, and then that's when he turned his ankle, right? And he left the game against Utah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, man. Like, to me, like, he's gonna be a key figure in our success. Obviously, Lowry's going to be a huge factor as well. But to me, I think Norm's going to do something special.
I hope so, man. And I love that he plays with a chip on his shoulder, as many of the guys do. Fred does too. And it's like like Kevin Durant said of Fred VanVleet, like gave him the ultimate compliments. Like, that dude is a dog. And like and Normie's got some of that in him too. And all those years that Dwayne Casey kind of put him in the doghouse, and he was like begging but he was asking for starting time. And Coach Casey was just like, man, you got to just marinate in the oven a little bit longer. And it's like Normie, and everybody has waves of inconsistency. And I know that Norm like got down on himself for that. But once like he found his groove, kind of like the way that Fred VanVleet found his groove after his little boy was born. Fred just turned into a monster in the conference finals, in the finals.
Yeah.
Normie's got a little bit of that in him too.
Nice. Want to kind of segue as well, Cabbie. I mean, we've seen your ability to connect and the awesome interactions and interviews that you've been able to do. And some of our favorite interviews and your interactions have been with Kobe Bryant. I think you had said that you had done about 20 interviews with Kobe at the Score and maybe one with TSN. And we remember the episode where, you had a chance to interview Kobe in the limo. You gave Kobe a ring. You offered Kobe a copy of a key to your own house. Our squad has such a great respect and admiration for Kobe. Rest in peace to Kobe. What were maybe one or two unique stories that you could share with us about Kobe that people wouldn't be aware of, and just based on the bond and relationship that you had with him?
When I would see him, I would pitch him two new ideas. I wanted to like Kobe to do a sketch. Because our interactions were mostly interviews, but I wanted to do a sketch. So I'd pitch him two sketch ideas every time I saw him. And he would be like, they let you over the border? I'm like, yes, yeah, the president gave me a pardon. And he called me Cabster. And all right, Cabster, what do you got? So then there was a time I pitched him. One time I pitched him this idea about buying one of his houses. He had like 3 homes in Orange County. So I was going to be like some fake rich tech guy or finance guy. But I was in the market for, 18,000 square foot home, and at the end, Kobe would return home. And this would be a way for me to like film his house. Like I made it to Kobe's house and, I'm like walking around and see. So, and at the end he returned home and he's got his 2 dogs. He had these 2 big, they weren't pit bulls. I can't remember the breed, not Aikido I'm not a dog guy. I can't remember what he said they were, but they were big. So at the end of the bit, he releases the leashes of the dogs. They chase after me, cut to black. So Kobe's like, that's all right. There's write me some Dave Chappelle show shit. I was like, Dave Chappelle? Kobe, I'm a fat reporter from Toronto. What do you mean, Dave Chappelle? Dave Chappelle is a comedic genius. He's one of the most brilliant minds of our time. He's like, and because he's so, like, he almost transcends comedy, and now he is like a truth teller. He's like one of the voices, and he's one of the voices of our time. Anyway, he's so brilliant.
Absolutely.
I was like, Kobe, like, I'm a fat reporter, like Dave, but he's like, he wanted me to dig deeper and write something that had, more punchlines and had more bang for its buck for Kobe to want to agree to do a sketch. Cause Kobe wasn't like, he appeared in, I think, Modern Family and maybe a couple of other other TV shows, but he was always Kobe, and he would be Kobe in these sketches. One time, another idea that we pitched him was to be to lead like an Alcoholics Anonymous group, but of like retired superheroes. And nice. Kobe was like the Black Mamba. We're gonna have Steve Nash, and we're gonna pitch it to Steve Nash to be like Captain Canada. And then we'd be sharing our stories, and that was like kind of the concept. He's like, and then the one that he did agree to was, and I've told this before, but it was, what if Kobe didn't go to the NBA out of high school? What if Kobe went to college for a year? And I had heard that had he gone to college, he would have went to Duke. Ooh. So the sketch was, what if Kobe and I were roommates at Duke for his 1 year in college?
Nice. Can you imagine?
So then Kobe, I would draw, like I would get like a sketch made and I'd put it on like foam core. I'm like, all right, here's one. I was like pitching him, like, it was just like a 1-panel storyboard. So I did this dorm room with like the Duke logo on the carpet and like a couple of posters on the wall and like a generic dorm. He goes, this is funny. He goes, I would mother bleeping kill you too if we were roommates. And I was like, okay, so should I write this one? He goes, yeah, okay, yeah, write it. So there I am, like, writing draft after draft. I'm like, is this funny enough? Send it to a couple of my friends. They punch it up, add some more jokes, submit it to this lady who ran Kobe Inc. Her name was Molly Carter. So I did like 5 drafts and I sent it, waiting for notes. Molly's like, you got to change the ending. You can't have girls in the sketch. I'm like, but Molly, like, we're college kids at Duke. Like, of course it's gonna be girls. She's like, no, change it. I'm like, okay. So I do a couple more drafts, send it. and then send it and like, hey Molly, has Kobe read it? And so and then like Kobe was this was like during the last year of his career. So well, I guess what people didn't know is that Kobe had self-financed a camera crew to follow him the entire last year of his career. And in our last interview, they were recording us, me being a goofball and doing it and like trying to hug him like multiple times. I gave him a card. This is, for the 30,000 points that you scored here, 30,000 hugs.
Right.
And then Kobe's like, hold on a second, like back up. So, I mean, I doubt any of that footage will ever make like his documentary, whether it's 8 parts and 24, like maybe it's 8 hours and 24 minutes.
24 minutes, yeah.
Right? Or if it's, I don't know, 24, 8-minute segments. Who knows what it's going to be. But what was my point there? So Molly was like, no. We never got around to doing it because like he was just busy with launching his media company. I mean, it was like he had a $100 million investment firm. He launched the Wizard book series.
Amazing.
He wrote Dear Basketball, which won an Oscar for a short documentary subject, or short animated film, or animated short, excuse me. What else? I mean, he was obviously more present in Gigi's and Nathalia's athletic endeavors. Nathalia played volleyball, Gigi played basketball. So he just didn't have really the time. And oh man, like we were gonna studio, like director, like we were gonna blow out the budget for this thing and like have like a one like Kobe. We got 4 hours of Kobe, like, and just all right, everybody. And my friend Nigel, we were playing squash one day. And then we were brainstorming, and he actually gave me the idea. So like Nigel, I wrote a part for Nigel in there to have like a cameo and stuff. Anyway, so Kobe always pushed me to be better. And the last time when I saw him in Toronto during the All-Star game, after the game's over, I went down to the court, gave him a hug, and he said, and it really touched me. He said, "You're at the beginning of what you're going to be." And I was like, wow, man, no one's ever said anything like that to me before. And it's always stuck with me. And just like, and like, listen, it costs you nothing to be nice. And it costs you nothing to be a jerk. But if they're both the same, why not be nice? And Kobe chose to be just inspirational. Like the Mamba mentality, his mantra is universal. It's just like work hard, dig deep, believe in yourself. Like all those things, that messaging can be applied to anybody's life. So I really embrace that. I embrace that moment. And every time I hug the dude, there would be a lot of resistance, but then I just wear him down over the course of like 10 or 15 minutes. And then he would relent. And then I get like, a hug the dude. I could never like get close to his face, like my face on his face like this. Well, like I would, because he was 6'6" and I'm only 6 feet tall, I get like right under his chin, right here.
Oh, that's awkward.
Oh man,
That's so awkward.
Amazing,
Was he more comfortable than MJ at the end of it? When you had a chance to hug.
Yeah, MJ was a little bit more welcoming to it because nobody hugs MJ. Like nobody touches MJ.
No.
So I just like it was like a sneak attack, and MJ just didn't know what to do with it. And here's some chubby.
Pull that off, man.
Thank you, man. Some chubby dude just hot, pressing my body against him, right on his chest. And I'm just like, all right, man. Yeah, man. All right.
Oh, man. Cabbie skills.
Man. No, I heard you say, I heard you say one time that, I can't remember what show it was on, but somebody asked you a question about the hugging, right? And you were like, you know what? It's the perfect thing to disarm. It's the perfect thing to disarm them, right? And kind of open up that floodgate where it's like they see you as something else, right? So like just a hug, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy, man. And like
it's
the fact
invasive and different. But yes, it was a way to disarm them.
Correct.
Like sometimes I put my arm around dudes, or I would touch their chest, or sometimes like Mo Pete. Sometimes I would stroke his face and be like, "Hold on, man. They don't know me like that, man." And I loved interviewing Mo Pete because I was so inappropriate. Like in the score days, I did some things I definitely could not get away with in 2020. Like, obviously, culturally, we've evolved, and I would always bring up Mo Pete's sister Tonda. How's Tonda? Like, can I talk to her? He goes, and more people are like, you could talk to her, but you can't talk to her.
Right.
You can say hi and be nice, but you can't talk. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, she's a beautiful woman. And he goes, hey, man. And he goes, hey, and like, he was like, throw his dukes up. Well, Pete was the absolute best. I love that dude.
Awesome. Cabbie, thank you so much for even sharing, those stories and just those memories with Kobe, and even just reflecting on just what he imparted on you as well. That's so awesome and so inspirational to hear. If you're okay, we wanted to do a bit of a rapid fire.
Let's go. I'm so sorry. My answers have been so long. I will condense them and then make sure we get through the whole list of rapid
All
fire.
good. We'll call this Fab Five with Cabbie,
Let's
in terms
do it.
of these 5 questions here. So first question, which song do you currently have on repeat on your playlist?
That is a great question. I was just listening to, oh my gosh, hold on. Thank you. That's a great question. This is terrible that I have to look it up. I'm so sorry, fellas.
No worries.
No, man.
No worries,
All
man.
good.
Take your time.
Well, I just bought the Tona album called July 26th, but that hasn't been on steady replay. I've been listening to this song called Long Beach by Coda the Friend. It's super smooth. Okay. It's like a summery vibes. And then I just made a playlist the other day. I had to go for a run because I'm just a disgusting pig. And I stepped on the scale literally yesterday. The quarantine 15 is real.
Yeah.
Like, this is gross.
We're all catching you, Cabbie. We're all catching you.
I had to make a playlist, so I put some Jack Harlow on there, put some G-Eazy, put some Jadakiss, put some Dipset, or the Diplomats, Dipset, and I put on, had some Tory Lanez on there, just up-tempo kind of thing. But anyway, Coda the Friend, and then, oh my gosh, what's that song by Earth Gang? Earth Gang just put out a song. Shoot, I can't remember. Anyway, I'm going to stick with the Coda the Friend song. I'm sorry that was rapid fire, but then I'm talking for 3.5 minutes. There's a problem here. I'm sorry. I'll do better.
That's awesome. Which show on Netflix are you currently binge watching? You touched on Netflix.
Great question. I'm watching All American with Taye Diggs.
Nice.
And there are they're all like these young actors that aren't really that known. And so I'm in season 1. It's like a high school football story based on the real life of a young black kid who grew up in Compton and made it to the NFL. It's okay. It's meant for teenage audiences, but I like Taye Diggs, so I'm watching that on Netflix.
Nice. If there was one Hollywood celebrity or professional athlete that you have not interviewed but would love to interview, who would it be?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. So I would love to interview Leo DiCaprio, but I also want to interview Russell Westbrook and Cam Newton and Tiger Woods. I want to make Russell Westbrook laugh, and I want to make Tiger Woods laugh, and Cam Newton and DiCaprio. And I don't know how I would do it. I would need to go in the lab and just figure it out. I would be so stressed out about it because, what do you ask these guys? Certainly Leo DiCaprio, who's been interviewed thousands of times. Actually, maybe the athletes have probably been interviewed more because they get interviewed every day, and DiCaprio doesn't have to do an interview. He may not have to speak to the media for a year.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, those 4 guys are on my list. And then there's Oprah, there's Serena. I'd love to interview Michelle Obama.
Big
She's
one.
an icon. Yeah. I would love to, a bunch of people.
Nice.
I would love to interview Tina Fey because she's so hilarious. Bunch of people.
Awesome. And I'm sure you'll be able to get them to laugh, Cabbie, with your creative genius and the acumen. You'll be able to do it.
Started off with a hug. And you're
Well, for the women, it would have to be high five.
Yeah, it's like a high five for women.
Or this game. I would just say, welcome to I'd like to start the interview this way. Stella, I once did that to there's 4 of us. We're on a commercial shoot, and one of the girls didn't know the game. I was like, how do you not know Stella Alahola? But I'm a lot old. I'm 20 years older than this girl. It's we didn't play that one. I'm but I'm sure I feel like Michelle or Oprah, maybe even Serena would know the Stella. I don't even know what the name of that game is. Stella.
Yeah. But I remember that track. I remember that track. That's awesome. In no particular order, Cabbie, who is on your NBA Mount Rushmore?
Kobe is the first face. Steve Nash. Sorry. For interviews or for players?
For players.
Like
players,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Or even interviews. You can do both. That's cool.
Okay, let me continue interviews. Okay, so Kobe, Nash, Paul Pierce,
Nice.
and Kyle Lowry. So those for interviews in the NBA. Okay, so then talent and skill and greatness and accomplishments. I guess for greatness, it's Michael, and then see on Mount Rushmore, like the first face I think it's Abraham Lincoln. I'm not exactly sure, or is it Benjamin Franklin? I don't know, or George Washington. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so Michael, and then Michael, LeBron, Magic, and Kareem. That's probably my
Kareem.
That's a stack four.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. And last question here as part of Rapid Fire, Cabbie. We know you love A&W. What's been your go-to snack or meal during this time of the quarantine?
Yo, I love this question, and I'll try to make it quick.
Take 5 minutes, man. No problem.
I've been murdering recently these Beyond Meat burgers.
Oh, look at
Yo,
that.
go to Costco, buy an 8-pack for $15, and I've been getting like these pretzel buns. Bro, I'm so fat. Like I'm the tomatoes, the lettuce, and the aged cheddar. I go spicy mustard, some ketchup, and then I'll sit on the couch and then crush 2 of them, put them in the Foreman grill because I'm still a 21-year-old college student at heart. And I don't know how to use the stove. I use the Foreman grill. And so that's what and then before that, it would either be those Kettle Creek, like the navy blue bag, like the salt and vinegar.
Oh man,
jeez.
dangerous.
Bag like that.
Yeah.
Like bottom of the plastic, just like finger along the bottom to get the oil and the salt and the like the little the crumbs of the chips. And then occasionally I'll just go see, I'm just so disgusting. And I'll go 2 bags of popcorn in like a big bowl with like the cheddars sprinkle, like that movie popcorn.
Yeah. It's fire. Yeah.
That seasoning.
Yeah.
And then I'll watch what I watched the other day. I watched 6 Underground with Ryan Reynolds, which is wildly entertaining. A lot of logic flaws, but wildly entertaining movie. Or I'll watch I watch Billions. Right now I'm watching Rami on Hulu. I'm watching like the Epstein documentary on. It's like all over the place. It's like sometimes I want to turn my brain off. Other times I want to learn. So I'll watch documentaries and
right.
Like what? Like you just can't believe like certain things happen. Anyway, okay, sorry. I know that Fab Five is usually like a 3.5 minute game, and we just extended it to 17 minutes.
All good. We love the insight and love your thoughts. Cabbie, thank you so much for joining us. Where can our viewers and listeners stay connected to what you're doing? At Bleacher Report and even your Instagram. Like, what's some things that you can plug that are coming?
Thank you, man. Thanks for asking. So on Twitter, it's just Cabbie is my handle, and on Instagram, it's The Real Cabbie. And right now, we are leaning into our COVID-19 strategy. I mean, as sports are going to resume with no fans, our stage and our office is out of the Caesars Palace Hotel in Las Vegas, where we run the game show. But we're going to be running the game show and the football show with no fans, like probably not very many people in the sports book. So we're thinking of ways of how we're going to engage, connect with the audience, build the community with an at-home strategy. We might not even be able to return to Caesars, even though it's open to the public, but Bleacher Report's like, hey, we want you guys to work from home. We want to make sure everybody's safe. So we're thinking of like, do we lean into Zoom or lean into Instagram Live or obviously the Bleacher Report app? We're figuring out those strategies and coming up with new content. So that'll be, the BR Betting Instagram channel. It's like BR_betting. You'll see my dumb face on there every once in a while. But Twitter, Instagram, it's Cabbie and The Real Cabbie.
Awesome. Thank you, Cabbie. So there you guys have it. The one, the only Cabbie Richards, OG in terms of Canadian TV sports personality, such an inspiration. Cabbie, thank you so much for taking the time to spend time with us, and we hope we can do this again sometime soon. Hopefully it was enjoyable as a whole.
Excellent. Yes, I appreciate you guys having me on the Serge Ibaka podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
Do not Google Serge Ibaka jogging pants. Don't Google images.
So Cabbie, it's not art. It's not art.
It's art. It is, yeah.
Awesome. So there you guys have it. Episode 9 of Beyond the Court comes to a close with our special guest, our first interview, Cabbie Richards. Don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button. And we'll also have the details for what Cabbie just mentioned with respect to Bleacher Report and all the stuff he has going on as well in the description. So thanks so much, guys. Take care, be safe, and stay blessed.